Hareini mekabelet alai et mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha reacha kamocha.
Reini ekabel alai et mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reika kamoka reaka kamoka.
Hareini mekabelet alai et mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha reacha kamocha.
Hareini mekabel alai et mitzvat haborei ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha reacha kamocha.
In many Hasidic communities, when a minyan gathers for prayer, the participants begin, as we just did, by invoking the famous injunction in Leviticus chapter 19 to love your neighbor as yourself. This statement reminds us that when we come together to pray, we are creating holy community. Love your neighbor as yourself is one of the most powerful mandates within the series of commandments known as the Holiness Code, which spans the final Torah portions of Leviticus, beginning with this week's double parsha, Achrei Mot Kedoshim. The Holiness Code is located at the very center of the Torah, symbolizing the critical role of the concept of holiness within Jewish thought and practice. Just before the revelation at Sinai, God describes the terms of the covenant, stating that if Israel follows the commandments, it will be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And just a few weeks ago on Shabbat Hagadol, we read in Parshat Tzav that the condition of holiness itself can be contagious. But what does it mean to be holy? And specifically, what does Judaism instruct us about the nature of holiness? As an art historian, I've become familiar with the wide array of Christian saints portrayed in European paintings and sculptures. Many of these figures lived in the first centuries of the Common Era, prior to Rome's adoption of Christianity as the state religion. According to legend, some of these saints were martyred for their religious practice. Others lived ascetic lives, shunning family and communal life, instead devoting themselves to intensive prayer. Some even retreated into the wilderness to live in the company of God alone. A survey of these saints' lives suggests that holiness is best achieved in solitude, and that dying for one's religious beliefs is the utmost act of holiness. These are concepts foreign to Judaism, which values life and the enjoyment of life. The Hebrew term kedusha, translated as holiness, indeed refers to a state of separateness, but not of separation from one's society. In fact, our creation story emphasizes the human need for companionship. In Bereshit, we read two accounts of the creation of humans, and neither is an endorsement of solitude. In the first, God appears to be creating a single individual, but ultimately creates a couple. For we read, "And God created the human in God's image. In the image of God, God created the human. Male and female, he created them." In the second account, a few verses later, God first creates a single person, but soon realizes that it is not good for man to be alone. Jews are a communally oriented people, and that goes for our spiritual lives as well. After all, some prayers may only be recited in the presence of a minyan. Even the humorous saying, 2 Jews, 3 opinions, reflects the significance Jewish tradition places on interaction with others. So, when the coronavirus pandemic forced us in March to take the extraordinary measure of isolating ourselves from others, we Jews felt especially adrift. Could we conceive of a Shabbat stripped of synagogue and schmoozing? And more worrying, could we face a Passover devoid of a crowded Seder table? Honoring the principle of pekuach nefesh, the prioritization of life over all other concerns, most of us have spent the better part of this spring isolated in our homes, physically disconnected from our friends and community. But, not being Christian saints, we refused to retreat into a hermetic existence. As soon as the stay-at-home directives were in place, we began finding creative ways to stay connected, gathering together virtually for Shabbat candlelighting, Torah study, davening, talking, and listening. Many of us experienced Zoom-assisted seders with more people than could ever physically fit into our homes. Beyond our own community, the number of newly available online Jewish resources, ranging from Zoom meditation sessions and Talmud discussion groups to Yiddish theater and classes on Jewish food culture, is staggering. And while video conferencing can never truly be a substitute for in-person gatherings, it has brought us closer together with our friends at Beth Shalom and with Jews around the country and abroad in ways we could never have imagined. Our efforts to create connection in the midst of isolation reveal the importance we place on community, especially Jewish community. But what does this have to do with holiness? In the Holiness Code and elsewhere, the Torah instructs us to live in a manner that always takes the well-being of others into consideration. Our lives are inextricably linked to those around us and to the communities in which we live, to those we love, and to those who we've never met. The Holiness Code, which seems to contain a commandment for every aspect of life, from family relations to business transactions to religious observance, is intended to shape the Israelite people into a Kehillah Kadoshah, a holy community.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner Shel Shabbat.
Lawrence Hoffman on Holy Community. There are 2 types of models for synagogues, the market model and the covenantal model. In the market model, individuals pay dues to synagogues, expecting programs and services in return. Synagogues pay dues to denominations, expecting the same thing. In both cases, members consider leaving when they no longer need or decide they cannot afford what the organization offers. In the covenant model, the synagogue is a set of sacred relationships and actions, not a collection of services and offerings. These actions are non-utilitarian in their essence. We pursue them for their own sake, but they do have results and consequences, evoking love, respect, good deeds, and enabling us to come together for mutual support in times of suffering, and for celebration in times of joy. These are the things that provide connectedness. These are things that truly matter. A covenantal community is a holy community.
L'chado di likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Shamor v'zakur b'dibur echad, Hishmianu el hamyukad, Adonai echad u'shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'litila. L'chado di likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabela. L'chado di likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, Kam besimcha uvetzola, Tok emunei am segula, Boi hala. L'chado di likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabela. L'chado di likrat kala, Panei Shabbat nekabela.
Julius Lester on holiness. I hope no student ever asks me what Judaism is, because I won't know what to say. It cannot be summarized into a system of beliefs. It is a way of living in the world through small actions. It is what I have been wanting to do all these years, make holy the ordinary, find the mystical in the mundane. The holy is fragile, and if it is placed next to the profane will have greater appeal. The holy is difficult, it requires effort. The profane is easy and requires only sloth, for which we have genius. God wants us to remain a people apart, or we will not survive, and holiness will not survive. I am used to thinking of holiness as powerful, but it isn't, which is why Judaism is so much work, why it is so concrete, why it demands so much. Holiness cannot be taken for granted. It must be fought for and won each and every day.
Every second, every minute, every hour, every day, everything, everyone, every place, every way. Where you stand, where you walk, where you love, where you praise. All of life is holy ground. Every he, every she, every what, every who. It's in her, it's in me,
May the one who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal David Barlabel, Nancy Brand, Bob Goldstein, Carol Thompson, Akiva Ben Avraham Littman Ubasha, Diane Legomsky, Pauline Spoolber, Hank Berman, Susan Bloom, Andrew McRail, Michael Butler, Ed Goodman, Naomi Pardue, Susan Sizer, Deb Garrettson, Jeff Stone, Norma Rezitz, Elaine Ostrower, Harav Yosefa Bat Devora, Harav Mikael Ben Moshe Veleba, Sarah Bat Avraham, Stanley Nash, Eileen Katz, Esther Rachel Bat Meir Unachama, as well as all those afflicted with the coronavirus.
Misheberak Avotenu Mekor Habraka Leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberak Imotenu Mekor Habraka Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
The first part of Leviticus is focused on the sacrifices and rituals to be carried out by the priests, a distinct caste within Israelite society. The idea that holiness connotes separateness seems supported by this emphasis on the Kohanim. But Leviticus also lays out other laws of separation, such as the laws of kashrut and those delineating the states of tahara and tumah, problematically translated as pure and impure, which will shape the lives of each and every Israelite citizen and those of their descendants, us. Leviticus chapter 19 opens with God telling Moses to speak to the whole Israelite community and say to them, "You shall be holy, for I, Adonai your God, am holy." In the Hebrew, crucially, this statement is in the plural, clearly addressing the community as a collective. Kedoshim tehiyu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Israel is destined to become a holy nation in which all have access to holiness. In Judaism, holiness is not attained simply through solitary prayer or good thoughts. Israel's status as a holy nation is, after all, contingent on following the mitzvot. The Holiness Code instructs us that holiness must be pursued through our actions and our interactions, providing for the less fortunate, treating others with respect and honesty, welcoming the stranger. These ethical precepts are easy for us to understand today and have especially clear relevance within the context of our public health crisis. But the Holiness Code also contains mitzvot known as chukim, or statutes, which have no clearly understandable basis. We are prohibited, for example, from mixing two types of material in the same garment and from consuming blood. How do these mitzvot help us attain holiness? And as Leviticus shifts from its emphasis on temple ritual to the ethical instruction that distinguishes the Holiness Code, What do we make of these laws, which not only intrude into the minutiae of our daily lives, but are seemingly without any ethical rationale? Or do they, in fact, help us strive towards holiness in a particularly concrete fashion? As practices unique to Judaism, the chukim, first and foremost, force us to think about our relationship to our community and to our Jewish identity as we go about the basic tasks of feeding and clothing ourselves. And in the modern world, our food and clothing choices indeed have significant ethical implications. We need to think about whether our choices will support the horrific treatment of animals on factory farms, or if they will encourage the use of slave labor within the production of cheap products. The coronavirus pandemic has made us more aware than ever of the ethics of our personal decisions. At the same time, it has painfully illuminated the inequalities and injustices within American society at large. In contrast, Jewish ethical precepts place a premium on the physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being of everyone in the community. The Holiness Code instructs us to make sure that each action we take is ethical and intentional and will cause no harm to others. As Jews, we must strive to follow its injunction to create a society that is just and fair, and that treats each and every individual as created in God's image and as an integral part of the community.
Our thoughts turn to those who have died, and in our community, we mourn the recent deaths of Yitzchak ben Ze'ev v'Chana Ethel, the father of Delia Igo, Leah Batzima Ushmuel, the mother of Adam Zlotnick, Carol Chastain, the mother of River Rosenberg, Harry Mance, the friend of Carolyn Gettold, those four who died of the coronavirus and complications, as well as Leonard Heller, the grandfather of Lance de Silva. May their memories be a blessing. We also call to mind our loved ones who died in past years whose yahrzeits are observed on this Shabbat, and they are Louise Freeman Allmeyer, Deb Allmeyer's mother, Miriam Alpert, Annette Alpert's mother, Joan Straight Applegate, John Applegate's mother, Rose Davis, Sam Maller's mother and the grandmother of Andy Maller, Ruth Diamond, cousin of Fran Weinberg, Emmanuel Gold, the father of Gail Gold Nichols, Joyce Turner Hilkovich, stepmother of Victoria Hilkovich, Evelyn Israel, the aunt of Marshall Jacobs, Dora Klein, Susan Klein's mother, Jean Muffson, Stuart Muffson's aunt, Betsy Sabka, the late wife of Dan Melamed, and Geraldine Walters, Rockney Walters' mother. May their memories be a blessing. Yitzgadal v'yitkadash merabah, bi'alma tivra kirute v'yamlich malchute, b'chayechon v'yomechon v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala v'zman kariv v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei rabah mevorach le'olam u'almei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei kudsha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechemata, da'miram v'yalma v'yimru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom v'ramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'yal kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Hamakom yinachem etchem b'toch sha'ar avalei Tzion, Yerushalayim v'ha'olam. May the Eternal comfort you and all of us who mourn in Zion, Jerusalem, and throughout the world. And let's say, Amen.
All around,
All around,
everywhere,
everywhere.
the highest
in the
sky,
highest sky,
in the deepest sea,
in the deepest sea,
in the highest sky, in the deepest sea. Holy holiness. In my heart, in your soul, in my heart, in your soul, holy holiness. In all we do, in all we are, in all we do, in all we are, holy holiness. Every step, every breath, every step, every breath, holy holiness. As with me, so with you, as with me, so with you, holy holiness.